The footwork of a featherweight, the speed of a middleweight, but the power of a heavyweight. He belonged to the golden age of heavyweight. He was very special as a fighter, 3-time heavyweight champion of the world.
When boxers are asked now who's the icon in your career, they still say Muhammad Ali, don't they?
He transcended boxing into society and he made himself the greatest of all time.
This is Final Round from William Hill with me, Lee Phelps, and the one and only Gareth A. Davis. Gareth, please tell them what happens in the final round.
Mr. Lee Phelps, in the final round, those last 3 minutes, we leave it all in the ring.
This is a special final round episode where we're going to look back, Gareth, on the life and times of the greatest, Muhammad Ali. June 3rd, 2026 was the 10-year anniversary of the great man's death. Remember back in 2016 how it rocked, the world of boxing. Even though obviously Ali in his later years struggled with ill health, of course. Let's start here. I mean, it sounds like a crazy question, but just how good was he? Because with time, obviously things get exaggerated, but occasionally I'll go back and watch, Ali's fights, and of course, the Rumble in the Jungle. I've lost count of how many times I've watched that, but how good was he?
Well, the years have been very kind to him. You can make comparisons with other eras sometimes. He really did belong to the golden age of heavyweights. Obviously, the 3 fights with Joe Frazier are immortalised with the fight of the century, the first one, in which he had his jaw broken and he lost to Joe Frazier when they were older in their careers. 4 years later, that was 71. 4 years later, they fought in the Thriller in Manila in excoriating heat, when they were both older heavyweights by then, they didn't move so much. They stood and had a war. In the middle of that, he fought in the Rumble in the Jungle. You rightly mentioned it's the most watched fight in history. When he was a young fighter, and again, we've talked about Anthony Joshua in recent weeks. He was an Olympic light heavyweight champion in Rome in 1960. He came from an incredible background. He was known as the Louisville Lip. And I know we'll get into the cultural things about him, but when he was young, and I make the point about him being a light heavyweight as an Olympian, as a 19-year-old, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world. And even as a fully fledged heavyweight, he was only 215 to 220 pounds. The weight of Alexander Usyk at his lightest at heavyweight, by the way. They were born on the same day, by the way, Usyk and Muhammad Ali, which is extraordinary, same birthday. He was also the footwork of a featherweight, the speed of a middleweight, but the power of a heavyweight. He belonged to the golden age of heavyweight. Foreman, Frazier, as I mentioned, Ron Lyle, Ernie Shavers, a great period. Larry Holmes as well, who fought him towards obviously the end of his career when he wasn't what he was at the beginning. It was an amazing era when 7 or 8 great American heavyweights all fought each other so many times. So he was very special as a fighter, 3-time heavyweight champion of the world, and lost his best 3 years, 25 to 28, when he was banned from boxing because he refused to be drawn into the Vietnam War draft, which was a big moment for him in his life and his career.
Yeah, you mentioned the cultural side, a cultural icon. I mean, most fighters become champions, and that's their destiny, and what they view their legacy as. Ali became something much bigger, didn't he? Through the civil rights, the stance over Vietnam, as you say. It's hard to put that into context now, isn't it? I mean, we've seen again, with in a different context completely, but we've seen with Usyk, with the war in Ukraine, what's going on there. There are kind of similarities in the stance and the kind of heroicism that Usyk is showing, and his compatriots, of course. But I mean, to be that big and take that much of a stand back around the Vietnam War is unreal, really.
I think you have to roll in. If you were going to make a comparison, you'd have to use a lot of people. Ali was so many different elements. He was one of the most famous people in the world at the time. You've got to remember that. He was, and also heavyweight boxing, and boxing at the time was enormous. in the 60s and 70s. Everybody knew the richest prize in sport was the heavyweight champion of the world, as it was called. $5 million for the first time when he and Frazier fought at Madison Square Garden in 71 in the fight of the century. You could not get tickets for that event. It was the beginning of CCTV and pay-per-view events, if you like, what is a modern pay-per-view event. He was a cultural icon, as you mentioned. There was something about his heroism. He stepped up and supported. He said he had no issue with the Viet Cong. He didn't want to, to quote him, he didn't want to fight against brown people who hadn't done anything to him. He was a free spirit. That was the thing about him. I think he was quite innocent in his way as well. He stood up for black rights. He spoke out about a lot of things. Ali made black beautiful as well, if I can use that expression. He was a beautiful human being. He had great charisma as well. He gave us poetry. He told us what round he was going to knock his opponents out in. He was the complete entertainer. There was a period of time early in his career when he upset. The liberals loved him. The subversive lefties loved him. He upset middle America with his views about lots of things. When he was the Louisville Lip and not the greatest, which he self-anointed himself as, he was a very unpopular figure with a lot of the right wing. That he was so many things in so many ways, Lee, and he's almost the example of what is the modern athlete advocate. When people take a knee today, when people do a salute, when people support things outside the sports, Ali was almost the first of his kind in that way. He spoke out the whole time. He was he transcended boxing, is the way I'd put it. He transcended boxing into society, and he made himself the greatest of all time.
Yeah, when you talk about him as being that kind of global celebrity, back in the day, if there are younger viewers watching this, you won't maybe not appreciate this, but back in the day when you would never see, it's not like social media now where you wait for Anthony Joshua's next, social post or whatever. You'd have to wait till he turned up on Parkinson, wouldn't you, to see him? And if anyone hasn't seen those, I'm sure everyone watching this has pretty much seen those, but go and find those, because to see him being interviewed in the aura, there's a fantastic one where Freddie Starr is on the guest list with Parky. But also, Gareth, when I was learning about boxing and when I started to watch, you had to wait for the documentaries to come around, but when ESPN Classic was around on our TVs, you'd get a lot of Ali documentaries. And the one of the best that I think has ever been done is called Ali Rap. And, he was dubbed the founder of rap music because of the linguistics that he had and the poetry that he used to use before fights and in press conferences. That is a fantastic documentary, kind of how he influenced hip hop music. And to say a boxer, a heavyweight boxer influenced an entire genre of music. And this is coming from the exponents of rap and hip hop as well. That is, if you haven't seen that, even if you know everything you think you know about Ali, Ali Rap is brilliant. Go and find it and watch it. It's sensational documentary.
It's absolutely brilliant. And it brings to mind as well, I was very lucky to work with Leon Gast, the documentarian and filmmaker, when he was making a movie about Manny Pacquiao, and I was one of the talking heads along with Mark Wahlberg and others, Freddie Roach, the Irish actor who's in those, Liam Neeson worked in it as well. And I was very privileged to be a part of the documentary about Manny Pacquiao. They came to interview me in Las Vegas when I was at a Pacquiao event, and Leon Gast was the producer or the director on When We Were Kings. And he spoke to me about Ali, and he said Ali was even helping him direct the movie in Kinshasa in Zaire at the Rumble in the Jungle, saying, I need to run around the lake here where the light is here in the morning, where I do my run because it will look right. He said he had an instinctive knowledge and an ability to know what you should be filming and when you should be saying things. And when you were talking about the Ali rap there, it also made me remember that Ali was one of the first guys to use psychology against his opponents as well, to wind his opponents up. Joe Frazier, who I interviewed many times, never forgave him during his life for how he had the toy gorilla and would wind Joe Frazier up, or would his opponent. He really got under his opponent's skin in a really powerful way. But I think the whole thing with Ali was it was all natural. It was all instinctive. It wasn't. The rapping was, he had an ability, he was an orator, an entertainer, a showman. That the interviews with David Frost, Sir David Frost, were extraordinary. The relationships he had with Howard Cosell, the relation in America, the presenter, the relationship he had with Harry Carpenter. You mentioned Parkinson, Michael Parkinson's shows. He knew how to entertain. He had a level of confidence about him that other people didn't have, but he also was a quiet man. And when he lit the Olympic torch in 1996 in Atlanta with his shaking hand when he had Parkinson's, he transcended the sport again, because he became this social representation of the ultimate humanitarian, because this was a guy who could rap, who could tell stories, who could entertain, who could make you laugh, but was silenced by his own disease. So it's an extraordinary story from top to bottom, his entire life, and the legacy he's left is. I've got goosebumps talking about him. I met him 4 times, and I think I've met all his wives. I've met many of his children. Nico Ali Walsh, Baggio Ali Walsh, 2 of his grandsons who are in boxing and MMA. I know them and their families. Hannah Ali, one of his daughters is a poet. I met her years ago. I covered the career of Layla Ali, his daughter. His life has been suffused into my career as well. And I'm really inspired being around the entire family. It's been an amazing journey just watching it. And he's very, very special. Maybe only Pele, Maradona. I'm trying to think of other names in history who resonate as a sports person like him. I don't think there are many at all.
I don't think there are many
on all those levels.
Yeah, no, I don't think there are many. I mean, and just like looking over my shoulder, like realize not by design actually, because it's usually up there. But on the front cover of a coffee table book about sporting photography, it's that picture. It's Ali on the front of it, isn't it? That says everything you need to know about it. Just one final question, Gareth, to anyone who's watching this and maybe hasn't really knows about Muhammad Ali but hasn't watched. What would the one fight to someone comes down from Mars or whatever? One fight that you should watch of Ali's, which one would you recommend? I mean, you want to watch all of them, don't you? But is there one that you kind of like always go back to? For me, it is that George Foreman fight. I mean, I just think it's unreal. I mean, there are better fights, but just the way, I mean, every time I watch it, I just think it's almost like a surprise every time he just kind of comes off the ropes and just tags him a couple of times and just waits and waits. But what's the one for you?
It's a very good point, because I've relived that fight so many times through all the characters that were around it. I've literally interviewed, I remember when he passed 10 years ago, we had a 12-page broadsheet obit in the Telegraph. But I think if I was going to pick the one fight, I would say it's when he beat Sonny Liston and he shook up the world, and he was youthful. He was in his early 20s. And he dominated this big, dangerous bear of a man. People thought that Sonny Liston was going to kill him in the ring. It's that Sonny Liston fight and his unbridled energy afterwards, where that mouth is going of his. There's the obvious ones, the Frazier fights, the Foreman fight. But for me, it's beating Sonny Liston and humiliating him in that first fight to become the early part, the greatest. He was still the Louisville Lip and Cassius Clay at the time, before his conversion to Islam to Muhammad Ali, and before dubbing himself the greatest. But I think it'd be that Sonny Liston fight.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm going to go and I've got meetings to go to, but I feel like I just want to go on YouTube now and watch watch all the best Ali fights. I mean, we could go on about this forever, but when I was just reminding myself before this, I was looking at the fight of the century, and Frank Sinatra was a ringside photographer, wasn't he? It's like,
but Lancaster was doing commentary. Yeah.
I mean, and these are bona fide stars at the time. It's
Yeah.
not like they're kind of on the way up, is it? Yeah, unreal. Well, thanks for all those memories, Gareth. And it kind of permeates your career, like you say. A lot of us we just look back. It was a little bit before my time in a sense, but obviously, it kind of still when boxers are asked now who's the icon in your career, they still say Muhammad Ali, don't they? They still refer to him. So, look, any comments you guys have got, any memories you've got of watching those early fights or listening to them on the wireless or kind of what he means to you, then please put them down below. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love you to like, subscribe, and tell a friend about Final Round as well. We've left it all in the ring. The final bell is tolled. We'll see you next time.